The vastness of space stretched endlessly, silent and unyielding. Amidst the sea of stars, something unnatural moved. A fleet of colossal alien ships, their hulls smooth and obsidian, reflecting distant starlight. They glided forward with eerie precision, their faint blue thrusters glowing like distant will-o'-the-wisps. Rows of glowing symbols pulsed along their surfaces, their meanings unknowable but distinctly menacing. On Earth, the world watched. News broadcasts flashed across every screen, interrupting regular programming with urgent, unrelenting updates. Unidentified fleet detected on approach vector. Estimated arrival in Earth's orbit. 36 minutes. Images of the fleet captured by orbital telescopes filled the feeds. The sight of the alien ships, so large they eclipsed entire constellations, drew a collective gasp from humanity. Crowds gathered in city streets, gazes locked on the sky. Mothers clutched their children. Soldiers readied their weapons. In underground command centers, world leaders faced each other through holographic projections, their faces masks of concern and resolve. Tension thickened with every passing second. They had been here before. Months ago, when the first alien probes had entered the solar system, Earth had issued a single warning broadcast across every known frequency. A simple message, calm but firm. Do not come closer. But now they were here. In one of the orbiting military command stations, General Vasquez stood before a vast wall of monitors, his arms behind his back, his jaw clenched. They heard us the first time, he muttered, watching the data feed. They chose to ignore it. Beside him, an aide shifted uneasily. Do you think they understand what's coming, sir? No, Vasquez said, his gaze never leaving the screen. But they will. Across the void of space, aboard the lead ship of the alien fleet, Supreme Commander Scath watched Earth through the grand viewport of his bridge. The world below spun slowly, serene and unassuming, its oceans gleaming under the sun's light. It was beautiful, in a primitive sort of way. Scath's mandibles clicked together, a sound akin to a dismissive chuckle. They think themselves fierce with their threats and warnings, he said. His voice a guttural growl in his native tongue. A subordinate bowed low, eyes averted. Their warnings are the cries of prey, Commander. They know they are weak. Scath's eyes, cold and predatory, narrowed as he leaned forward. His gaze locked onto Earth like a predator stalking wounded prey. Then let them watch, he declared. We will not strike them. Not yet. We will make them understand what true power is. Position the fleet above their major cities. Let them see us. Let them feel helpless. Yes, Supreme Commander. The fleet shifted formation. Massive cruisers glided into position, casting shadows over Earth's surface, their outlines visible to the naked eye from the ground below. People pointed at the sky as shapes blacker than night eclipsed the clouds. Panic set in. Phones buzzed with frantic calls. Air raid sirens echoed through the streets. In an underground bunker, President Harper sat at a metal table, hands folded under his chin. Around him, his military advisor spoke in tense, hushed tones, proposing courses of action. If they want us to see them, they want a response, said one. Perhaps they want us to surrender before they fire. President Harper's gaze was steady, his eyes sharp as steel. They want fear, he said quietly. They will get nothing from us. Outside, children pointed at the sky, their parents ushering them indoors. The ships loomed larger now, filling the horizon like a second shadowed sky. The whole world watched, waiting for the first strike, the first light of destruction. But no fire came. Not yet. Minutes later, aboard the flagship of the alien fleet, Scath strode to his command seat, confidence radiating from every motion. Their silence means only one thing, he said with certainty. They have no plan, no defense. They wait for mercy that will never come. He turned to his tactical officer. Prepare the main cannons. I want a demonstration of our might. Target their largest population center. Fire above it, just close enough to burn their air and blacken their skies. By your command, the officer replied, tapping commands into the console. Across the fleet, power conduits glowed with violent energy, charging the cannons with radiant blue light. The hum of the fleet grew louder, reverberating through space. On Earth, instruments picked up the energy spike instantly. Alerts blared through military networks. Operators in bunkers barked reports into headsets. Energy buildup detected. Enemy ships charging weapons. Where's the target? General Vasquez demanded. Trajectory analysis indicates. New York, sir. They're targeting New York. Status of the Guardian. Vasquez's tone was sharp, unyielding. Line. Awaiting command. Silence filled the bunker. The world seemed to hold its breath. Vasquez's eyes met the communications officer's. No warnings this time, he said. No second chances. Send the signal. The officer pressed a single button. Somewhere far away, on the dark side of the moon, red lights blinked to life. And just like that, the game had changed. Silence returned to space, thick and absolute. The debris of the alien fleet drifted aimlessly, jagged chunks of twisted metal reflecting faint rays of sunlight. Fragments of ships, some as large as entire buildings, tumbled in slow, aimless rotations. The stillness was surreal. No engines, no comms chatter, no signs of life. Just the cold, endless void swallowing everything. On Earth, people stared at their screens in quiet awe. No announcements were made. No triumphant declarations echoed through the airwaves. There was no need. The evidence was right in front of them. The enemy fleet was gone. Wreckage floated where invincible warships had stood just moments before. Crowds that had once filled the streets in panic now stood in stunned silence, gazing upward as if they could see the aftermath with their own eyes. President Harper leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. His hands rested on the table, fingers tapping a slow, thoughtful rhythm. The room around him buzzed with quiet movement, advisors whispering, aides gathering reports, soldiers relaying status updates, but he remained still. His eyes stayed locked on the live satellite feed of the battlefield. All hostiles confirmed neutralized. A voice crackled over the comms. No survivors detected. No escape pods launched. Understood, Harper replied, his voice calm but firm. He glanced toward his Secretary of Defense. Any word from the civilian networks? The secretary checked her tablet, fingers swiping through feeds of public broadcasts and social media traffic. They're calling it a miracle, she said. Some think it was divine intervention. Others think it was us. The conspiracy channels are already running wild. She paused, glancing at him. Should we issue a statement, sir? Harper tilted his head back, eyes on the ceiling as he thought. No, he said finally. Let them wonder. In the command bunker, General Vasquez stood with his hands on his hips, eyes locked on the last few blinking red dots that marked the remains of the fleet. Each dot flickered once, twice, then disappeared as the wreckage drifted out of the sensor grid. The operator at the console glanced up at him. That's the last of them, General. Vasquez nodded slowly. Shut down the alert status. Return all forces to standby. The operator tapped a few keys, the klaxons ceased, and the flashing red lights in the bunker dimmed to a calm, steady white glow. Soldiers sighed with relief, some leaning back in their chairs, others rubbing their eyes after hours of intense focus. Permission to speak freely, sir? One of the lieutenants asked, turning to face Vasquez. Go ahead. The lieutenant hesitated, glancing at the screens where fragments of alien ships floated in the void. Did we just win a war without firing a single shot? Vasquez glanced at him, his gaze sharp but not unkind. We fired, he said, stepping closer. You just didn't see it. On the surface of the moon, the Guardian systems were quiet. It had no celebration protocol, no victory algorithm. Its targeting array had long since powered down, its sensors reduced to passive observation. The fragments of the alien fleet were catalogued and recorded, each piece marked with mass, velocity, and trajectory. It sent a final status report to Earth, All hostiles neutralized. No further action required. For the first time in hours, the Guardian was still. Its sleek, black frame folded back into its dormant form, panels sliding into place, weapons retracting like claws returning to sheaths. The rows of red lights dimmed one by one, until only a single faint glow remained. The machine slept. Aboard the wreckage of one of the alien ships, faint sparks flickered along exposed wires. A small, insect-like drone skittered from one side of the ruined corridor to the other, its 6 legs clicking softly on the metal floor. Its camera lens swiveled, scanning the area with mechanical precision. Bodies lay motionless around it, limbs twisted in unnatural angles. The drone paused beside one of them, tilting its head, clicking softly as it processed the image. The figure stirred. Slowly, weakly, one of the alien crew members lifted a hand, claws scraping the ground. His breathing was ragged, shallow gasps wheezing through his cracked mandibles. His eyes, dim but still burning with resolve, locked onto the drone. He muttered something in his native tongue, his voice rasping like sand on metal. The drone paused, its sensors focusing on him. Transmitted a signal. Deep within the wreckage, a single message repeated over and over on a barely functional transmitter. It was faint, almost drowned out by the static of broken systems, but it persisted. Survivor detected. Location marked. No one heard it. No one responded. On Earth, the world slowly returned to life. The news networks filled their broadcasts with analysts, pundits, and experts offering their theories. Some claimed it was a hidden weapon fired from Earth's orbit. Others pointed to the Guardian, though most dismissed it as a relic of an old Cold War myth. Footage of the destruction replayed in loops, showing alien ships crumbling into debris without warning or explanation. Their ships just fell apart, one reporter said during a live broadcast. No beams, no missiles, no explosions. It was like something just erased them from existence. It's impossible, another analyst argued. Kinetic weapons don't move that fast. There'd be visible impact trails, energy discharges, something. But it happened, the reporter replied, gesturing toward the live feed of the wreckage. So maybe it's time we reconsider what's impossible. In a dimly lit office in an undisclosed location, 2 figures sat opposite each other. One wore a suit, his hands folded neatly on the table. The other, dressed in a military uniform, leaned back with his arms crossed, eyes fixed on the man across from him. So the man in the suit began, his tone calm but probing. They ignored the warning. They always do, the officer replied, his voice carrying the weight of experience. The man in the suit tapped his fingers on the table, his gaze distant, lost in thought. Do you think the next fleet will be smarter? The officer's eyes narrowed. They might be. But it won't matter. Confidence is a dangerous thing, General, the man in the suit replied, his eyes sharp as glass. Arrogance even more so. Arrogance didn't destroy that fleet, the officer said, leaning forward. Precision did. Back on the moon, beneath layers of regolith and metal, the Guardian remained still. Had no dreams. Had no sense of self. Time had no meaning to it. It was a machine designed for a single purpose, and it had fulfilled that purpose flawlessly. The echoes of its last activation still lingered in the vacuum of its memory cache, like the distant hum of a fading song. It would wait. It always waited. The cold patience of a machine had no limits. Days, months, years. None of it mattered. The moment another signal was sent, it would rise again, silent and unseen, just as it always had. Far from Earth, beyond the wreckage and ruin, something stirred. A distant signal. A transmission sent not to Earth but away from it. Its origin was unclear. Perhaps a rogue drone. Perhaps something more. The signal carried a simple, urgent message in a language only a few could understand. Warning, Earth is defended. Do not approach. Do not challenge. Do not ignore. Somewhere light years away, a receiver blinked. A transmission log marked the message as received. No response was sent.